Now, Tesla shares are tanking as the rest of the market rallies, leaving traders to wonder if the EV maker actually belongs still in the grouping of the Magnificent Seven.
That having a good product just is not enough, and that's what Barclays said when it downgraded Rivian to equal weight from overweight.
I cannot imagine how a Delaware Chancery Court judge, I guess it is, could say, all right, do over, you don't get the money.
Several people jumped on the hood of the car and broke its windshield. The car was set ablaze after someone threw a firework inside.
Well, NTSB is furious about this. The director of NTSB said something like, do they not care about how many people have died? And they've said this is completely ridiculous.
All that and more. So let's get to it. Tesla stock is down in the pre-market almost 1%, sitting at 186.62. Year to date, the stock has been punished, down over 25%. I'm not sure how much lower the stock can go, but I will continue to buy Tesla shares and place these protective puts so I can make a little more money and put that in towards the stock.
Now, Tesla shares are tanking as the rest of the market rallies, leaving traders to wonder if the EV maker actually belongs still in the grouping of the Magnificent Seven. The problem, of course, for Tesla is 6 of those 7 tech companies benefit from that AI enthusiasm, while EV demand is expected to slow in 2024, making it hard for investors to swallow the sky-high valuation.
6 out of the 7 bank on AI. Is he saying that Tesla doesn't bank on AI? Is he under the impression that Tesla's just a car company? Well, I suppose he wouldn't be alone. The market is punishing Tesla for being an automotive company. Not just that, but with the EV slowdown, disaster is lurking around the corner for anybody making EVs.
Talk Rivian. There's always action in Rivian. The share's down. Seems like, the stock generally, the more we talk about it, the more it seems to go down. It's just stuck. Renita, what's the latest here?
For sure, shares have been running out of gas.
You see what she did there? I suppose it's not just Tesla that's on the slide for the beginning of the new year. Rivian and every other EV automaker appears to be struggling in the year of 2024.
But it wasn't too long ago that this stock was considered an underappreciated winner in the transition from gas-powered vehicles to electric vehicles, right? But all of this is coming to one signature point today, that having a good product just is not enough. And that's what Barclays said when it downgraded Rivian to equal weight from overweight and cut the price target to $16 from $25 a share. Now, the analyst over there, Dan Levy, he says the company does have a great product, has great technology, and we know Rivian is launching the R2, the smaller, cheaper next generation vehicle next month, and AT&T is piloting Rivian vehicles in its fleet. That's promising. But this analyst over at Barclays says this is not enough to avoid those increased signs of demand pressure from the broader EV slowdown that none of us can really deny is happening. It's showing up even in the best of the best.
Are we serious right now? Okay, the real issue with the EV demand is no one outside of Tesla is making any money on their battery electric vehicles. At least Rivian has a decent product. They're very stylish, they have decent tech, more than I can say about Ford and GM, which are just lateral moves from their internal combustion engine counterparts. These are highly complex, large manufactured items, and everybody's realizing that it's not as easy to manufacture these things as Tesla makes it look. As you get better at manufacturing them, the prices will come down. When the prices come down, sure as the sun rises in the east, the demand will increase. These are huge, life-changing investments, tens of thousands of dollars. To say that the interest rate environment doesn't have an impact, well, that's foolhardy.
Well, Walter, if you were Elon Musk and you have an EV, you invite all the EV makers, and you
don't invite Tesla.
That's probably the most absurd, ludicrous thing there's no way to explain that.
It really got him mad, and it still gets him mad. But how do you explain it?
How do you explain it?
Especially when
Unions is how you can explain it. I'm not saying it's right.
No,
I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's the rationalization.
Okay.
I want to go back, though, to some of the Delaware stuff, and I'm curious what you think of the compensation situation.
I find that baffling. I mean, You're quoted in my book when they give out that compensation package saying this is a real stretch. If he can pull this off, it will amaze people. If he can get through, I think there were five
targets, or 5 or 6 targets, both on market cap, but more importantly, I would argue, operationally.
Right. How much he could put out, how much revenues, how much market cap. You had to go through all of these games.
Then you had to hold it for 5 years, too.
Do it for 5 years. And he gets nothing except if he goes through these things. And he says, okay, I take the bet. 2017, going into 2018, the whole place seems to be going bankrupt. People like yourself are saying, no way it seems that he will get to these goals. He takes it, he does it, they pay him. I cannot imagine how a Delaware Chancery Court judge, I guess it is, could say, all right, do over, you don't get the money.
Said it before, and I'll say it again, pay that man his money.
What's the next step? What happens?
It can go to the Delaware Supreme Court. I assume, and you've seen it in the Wall Street Journal today, I assume that Tesla and other companies like his will pull out of Delaware because you can't trust it now. And you see Nevada making a big run to say,
Texas.
And Texas. Right. You know, I've tried to be objective in my book. I see all the things. I can see why people are furious at him. I can't see how you take the guy's compensation 5 years after it's been granted and say, oh no, the deal that 75% of stockholders made, we're just going to revoke that and take the money away.
I mean, it's bizarre. Even the purchase of Twitter and other things along the way. Like, what? It's crazy how it's all.
It was, I don't want to go too far here, but it was somewhat politically tendentious. You know, does the world's richest man need to, as opposed to the law says that. Yeah.
Right. And look, to me at least, I don't know if you agree with this.
And shareholders voted on it. That was the.
So overwhelmingly.
Really, but if you look through that decision, they're claiming that effectively that independent board isn't so independent, which, by the way,
that has an odious smell.
It may very well be true. Right? It may not be as independent, and they may not have taken, may not have negotiated as hard as they should have. I think we could probably all agree that that's the case. Having said that, there's this idea that because they were this independent board and they endorsed it, that the shareholders agreed to the deal because they endorsed it, meaning that this the argument is that effectively this independent board misrepresented themselves as being independent, and therefore that
there was no major shareholder looking at Kimball Musk and other people on the board.
I agree with you. I'm just saying
they could look at that deal and they could read about it in the deal book column of the New York Times. It had it exactly right. And they say, here's how we voted. And even if there was some, non-independence on the board, you can go in then and say, wait a minute, this doesn't smell right. But to go in after he's accomplished every single one, or almost every single one of those goals, gotten the money, use it to buy, then say, no, we think 5 years ago was wrong. It's ridiculous.
Your mother right. This make any sense to me. I mean, I wasn't a shareholder back then. I am now. And if I vote on something, you best believe I want that to occur. Overwhelming majority of shareholders wanted this to happen. It boggles my mind.
On Saturday, a crowd vandalized and set fire to a Waymo self-driving car using a firework in San Francisco. A company spokesman said that a crowd surrounded that white SUV that was moving along a street in the city's Chinatown district. Several people jumped on the hood of the car and broke its windshield. The car was set ablaze after someone threw a firework inside.
What are we doing, people? Is this the new hotness? This is the new hotness.
While some companies, including Apple, are ramping up autonomous driving efforts in California, there's a growing backlash against existing vehicles. This weekend in San Francisco, a crowd vandalized, there you see it, a Waymo self-driving car and set it on fire. It's not the first time people have attacked a self-driving car, but this incident may show growing public hostility toward them. And last night, the safety advocacy group, The Dawn Project, aired 2 Super Bowl commercials in some major markets.
2 Super Bowl commercials in some major markets? That's a lot of bread.
Highlighting the supposed dangers of Tesla's self-driving software. The group calling for the American public to boycott Tesla
following a series of fatal crashes. We should note we did reach out to Tesla for comment, but have not heard back. Here now is Dan O'Dowd, a tech billionaire and founder of the Dawn Project. Dan, welcome. I should point out, in the interest of full and self-disclosure, that I am an owner of a Tesla vehicle, a Model Y. Are we talking about accidents caused by the full self-driving software or the autopilot software, which is something less than the full self-driving, or both?
Both are problems, though our focus has been primarily on the full self-driving, which is really the modern product. The autopilot product is essentially obsolete. It comes for free. It's not a great differentiator. We've tried Ford and GM systems, and they're comparable in that regard. The full self-driving is the problem, where it tries to work on all roads, but it does so very poorly. You get in that car and you drive for a while, turning on FSD, full self-driving, and after a while, it will do something crazy. It's right there in the manual. It tells you it might do the worst thing at the wrong time.
I use this technology every single time I'm in the vehicle, and by no means is it perfect. That's why my hands have to be on the wheel at all times. I have to be ready to take over at a moment's notice, because ultimately, I am responsible for the software. I do believe I agreed to do these things when I signed up for the beta program. Now, when Tesla sheds the beta tag, Dan's comments would be valid if these things occurred while it was not a level 2 fully autonomous vehicle.
It will steer into oncoming traffic, try to crash into something, drive the wrong way on a roundabout, something very, very scary. And it just happens all the time.
Where is the federal government on this, the National Transportation Safety Board, the Transportation Department, and where has Tesla failed to act?
Well, NTSB is furious about this. The director of NTSB said something like, do they not care about how many people have died? And they've said this is completely ridiculous.
You know what's completely ridiculous? 40,000 deaths on American highways. The number of accidents, not even deaths, the number of accidents pale in comparison when you're talking about the deaths on American highways for the past few years. What's even more ridiculous is your opposition to this technology that's going to save millions of lives. I mean, it's not like you have a conflict of interest in this matter. It's not like you're trying to develop your own self-driving software. Ooh boy. Yeah, I'm sure you don't have a conflict of interest with FSD.
Why don't they shut them down?
NTSB has no power to shut anything down. That's NHTSA, the other agency that has the power. NTSB is an investigative organization. They look at crashes, they write reports and say why they happened, but they have no regulatory authority. They can't shut it down. Only NHTSA can, and they have many ongoing investigations. I've heard they've had 20 or 30 ongoing investigations. They have made some reports, but they've all been very mild.
So why doesn't NHTSA act? They just haven't. They're not agreeing, or they're just not acting because of bureaucratic inability to act.
Right. So NHTSA has all these investigations. If you ask them, actually, Senator Blumenthal sent them a letter asking where they stood on this, or when are they going to be done, have they reached any conclusions. Their answer is always the same. We're in the middle of an investigation. We can't comment. We don't comment. When you get the report, when we're done, we'll get a report out. You'll have a report. That's simply their answer. So we have no idea where they are in their investigation. Part of the issue, a key issue, is that, which we highlighted in one of our Super Bowl ads, is that there have been a number of lawsuits of people who died driving with autopilot. And Tesla has escaped liability. They've been sued a bunch of times. They escaped the liability by saying, well, right on page 119 in the manual, it says that you can't use this on roads with cross traffic or stoplights or anything. Can only be used on a freeway.
Anybody that activates the software knows that they have to take over at any given point. Tesla's not escaping liability. They have none. It is the onus of the driver to make sure nothing crazy happens. Why is this possible, you may ask? It's because Tesla is a level 2 autonomous software. When they shed that beta tag, and people are able to get in the back seat and there's no driver in the front seat, then the liability will shift to the company. Until then, all of this hearsay about open investigations, all of these lawsuits about That's on autopilot. Tesla walks in there with the utmost confidence, and there's human error at play. Coincidentally, the reason why the company is working on this software, to lower that death count of 40,000 plus deaths on American highways. For Dan O'Dowd, a man who has a conflict of interest building similar technologies, to run a smear campaign that costs millions of dollars to do, well, that kind of reeks of desperation with a hint of malice. And quite frankly, it's despicable. In conclusion, stop comparing Tesla to the Mag 7. Many investors don't believe that they're a technology company, that they're just an automotive company that's going to suffer because of an EV slowdown. Pull them out of the Mag 7, stop comparing it, and in a decade's time, don't lump them in with anybody else, because they're going to be the most valuable company in the world, doing the most unique things around the world as well. And it's not just Tesla suffering from 2024 woes. Rivian and anybody else that's making battery electric vehicles seems to be taking a hit in the stock market. I don't know about any of those other companies. I only invest in TSLA. And this negative sentiment toward EVs? Yeah, that sounds like a buying opportunity to me. You know my opinions on this Delaware situation. Pay that man his money. And I'm in the same boat as Walter Isaacson here. I can't believe that they came to that decision. Pay that man his money. The burning of the Waymo vehicle was absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe how that went down, but it did. What's even more ridiculous is that Dan O'Dowd paid over $10 million to run a smear campaign on Tesla's full self-driving beta. Now, I didn't get to see any of those commercials, and I suppose that's a good thing. And I suppose Dan might have a case if Teslas weren't being supervised by the driver behind the wheel. As long as Tesla keeps the software in beta at a level 2 autonomy, gathering these unique corner cases, this is what's going to allow Tesla to solve for autonomy. Simulated miles combined with real world miles multiplied by time equals FSD beta shedding the beta tag and rendering Green Hill's platforms effectively useless. That's not good for business, right, Dan? Right, Dan? That's all I've got for you today. Be easy. Peace.